Good morning, this is Shelby Law with the Great Basin Fire Potential Briefing for Thursday, July 13th, 2017. Fire potential impacts continue to include thunderstorms across the Great Basin, with wet thunderstorms over much of southern and eastern Great Basin, with some dry thunderstorms moving up into northeast Nevada today and tomorrow. And then we'll see those isolated thunderstorms spreading further across much of northern Nevada and up into southern Idaho and northwest Utah for Saturday into Sunday. Thunderstorm coverage was limited to much of the southern Great Basin yesterday, with many of these storms producing a fair amount of precipitation, with some heavy producers, especially over the southern Utah mountains. Current fire activity is shown here, with 5 team fires ongoing across the Great Basin. Recent wet storms, especially across the southern Great Basin, have caused fire danger indices to begin dropping across the south, with many of those areas now between the 50th and 80th percentiles. However, over northern Nevada, shown here on the top, those values are still on the rise and are exceeding the 80th percentile. And the chart on the bottom shows that drop in ERCs over the southern Utah mountains, dropping down below the 80th percentile. 10-hour fuel moisture still remained quite low, especially over portions of northern and central Nevada where the relative humidities have remained quite dry. This morning's satellite imagery shows a broad area of high pressure remaining in place over the Great Basin. This will contribute to very warm temperatures region-wide and allow some of that moisture to move northward throughout the Great Basin today. An area of low pressure off the Canadian coast will begin to nudge the high pressure area further eastward towards the beginning of next week. High-risk triggers have been issued for northeast Nevada today as moisture is moving northward through the Great Basin. These storms will be on the wetter side in Utah, but could be a mix of wet and dry in Nevada. Relative humidities still remain in the single digits, mainly over western and central Nevada, where they're slightly higher over much of Utah. The image on the right shows the aerial coverage of what we're looking at for those thunderstorms this afternoon, where they'll be on the wetter side over Utah, and really just a mix of wet and dry over eastern and east central Nevada. The threat for these isolated dry thunderstorms continues across northeast Nevada going into Friday. The thunderstorm coverage will begin to decrease, especially over the southern Great Basin by Friday into the weekend, and we'll see an increase in thunderstorm coverage across the north during this time frame. On Saturday, some moisture works its way up and around the high pressure into western Nevada and up into southwest Idaho. We're expecting some isolated thunderstorms to pop up in those regions, and some of those thunderstorms could linger throughout the nighttime hours as well, Saturday night into Sunday. Minimum relative humidities may come up just a touch over western Nevada as some of that moisture gets pulled northward. Thunderstorm coverage will decrease over much of Utah on Saturday and Sunday. 3-day precipitation accumulation shown here, with the best chance of precipitation continuing over the Utah mountains, with only light amounts expected over eastern Nevada and up into far western Nevada. On Sunday, that strip of moisture is pushed further eastward into the central Great Basin as that area of low pressure begins to move closer to the coast. This will push the thunderstorm coverage over much of northern Nevada into northwest Utah and even up into eastern Idaho, where we'll expect a mix of wet and dry thunderstorms. On Monday, as that area of low pressure draws closer to the coast, an increase in wind speeds are expected, particularly over northwest and north central Nevada. Thunderstorm coverage will also be decreasing during this time period, except over portions of Utah. On Tuesday, continued dry air moves into the western Great Basin as moisture pools just to the south. And by Wednesday, some of that moisture will return to southern and central Utah for increasing thunderstorm coverage there. 7-day precipitation totals are shown here, with an increase in precipitation expected over Utah. This is mainly for the second half of the period, Tuesday through Wednesday next week, as we're seeing the moisture return primarily to Utah, where points further north and west will remain on the drier side. The extended forecast for the third week of July is calling for continued above normal temperatures across the Great Basin, although there is a below normal trend in temperatures over the southwest, and a continuing trend for above normal precipitation for much of Utah and Nevada as well during that time frame. This concludes today's fire potential briefing. Please check back tomorrow for the latest updates.